guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going through all the books I read in the month of September. Alright guys, so in the month of September I read a total of 11 books, which is actually a lot better than I thought I was going to do. The majority of the month I thought it was going to be another really slow month, but I actually did pretty decently well. So I'm very happy with that. So this month I read 10 not physical books, because a couple of them were ebooks. And I forget how many are ebooks. I forgot to write that down. But I read 10 books and then I listened to one audiobook. The audiobook was about 7 hours long, and the books accounted to about 2,772 pages worth. So I'm pretty happy. I am well ahead of my reading goal for this year. I honestly, if I have a really good month this month, I could just about make it, if not in November. So like, I think I'm gonna surpass it. I'm really excited about that. But yeah, let's just get into the video and all the books I read this month. Alright guys, so the first book that I read this month was actually a novella, and that is by Jenny Proctor. It's called Hold Your Breath. It was just a short, sweet little romance, clean romance novella, literally under 100 pages. Very short. It was about two swimmers, kind of a second chance romance, I guess. I gave this a solid 3 stars. It was fine. It was nice. I read it on the plane back home at the very beginning of the month of September, so you know, it did what it was supposed to, which was distract me and stuff like that, because I don't like flying. So yeah, that was fine. So the second book that I read this month was also an ebook. I actually got this one from Libby, through Libby from my library though, and that was Give Me a Sign by Anna Sortino. I actually did a specialized review on this one, so if you want to hear more specific thoughts on it, go ahead and head over to that video. For this one, it was a deaf romance, YA romance, and I gave this one a 4 stars. So yeah, if you want to hear any more thoughts, head on over there. And then the third book I read and finished this month, I did actually start this in the month of August, but for September I finished off Lovely War by Julie Berry. I do already have this in another vlog, so a few more specific thoughts are in that vlog if you'd like to check it out. I did end up giving this a 4 stars though. I enjoyed it. This is a YA historical romance with Greek mythology twisted into it, so it was very interesting and I enjoyed it. All right, and then book number 4 was King Arthur and His Knights of the Round Table. This is by Roger Lancelyn Green. This was actually on my list, and again, I started this in August of when my husband picked my TBR. We had a lot of family stuff happen, and so I didn't read a lot of books in August. So this one got rolled over. I had started like the first chapter or 2 in August, but I read most of it in September. I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4 star. I don't think I have any video talking about this specifically. I will say this is like a classic. It's about like medieval knights, fantasy type-esque. I really enjoyed this. I was not expecting it to kind of bring up God and religion and just like biblical morals and stuff in the story as much as it did, and I did appreciate that, but there were still some stories and some parts that I was like, no, I don't like that. Like, it wasn't, you know, I wouldn't call it Christian, but it definitely had a lot of Christian values in it, and it definitely, you could see like the influence of Christianity and like the kind of time period that this was made, I guess I would say. But it did have some like really good things in it, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I very much enjoyed it. So, all right, and then the 5th book I read this month was The Well-Watered Woman by Gretchen Saffels. I did not like this one very much at all, guys. I rated this a 2.5 stars, and I do have a specialized review talking about this one. So if you haven't heard me rant about what I did not like about this book and how much I did not like this book, then feel free, go on over and hear me rant about it if you'd like to. But this is a Christian living self-help book. And yeah, I did not think it was a very good one. All right, and then the 6th book that I read this month was The Naturals. This is by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It is the first in the Naturals series. This is a YA mystery thriller, kind of Criminal Minds, serial killers, but as teenagers series. And I liked this first book. I gave this a 4.25 stars. I enjoyed it. I do think there were some parts I would caution, as in the there's little, not at the end of every chapter, but some of them they had this little you part, and it's basically the serial killer's like mind, and he's talking, so there are some more disturbing, a little bit more graphic, not too graphic because it is YA, but a little bit more graphic parts in that. I can't skip over things very well in books. It drives my brain crazy. But I know Oceana skipped over those parts and she just loved the experience. But I do think that you should be aware of that, especially for like younger YA and stuff, that it might not be the best. Kind of do it at your discretion. But I did also have this in that reading vlog that I talked about Lovely Warren also, so I'd probably have more thoughts over there. Right, and then the 7th book of this month that I read was A Heart Realigned by Elizabeth Maddrey. This is the 3rd in a Peacock Hill romance, which it is a Christian romance, like Christian contemporary romance series. I have not read the first 2, so obviously you don't need to read the first 2 to read this one. But I enjoyed this all right. Between fluffy romance and yeah, it was what I needed at the time. I believe I gave this one a 3.75 stars. And if you're looking for something like this, you know, I would recommend it. All right, and the 8th book I read this month was Frostfire. This was by Ellie McKay, I believe. This was an arc that I got through NetGalley, and it's just a little children's book, children's book. A children's picture book. There we go. And this one was cute. If you love dragons or winter, I would definitely say that you and your kids will enjoy this. It doesn't have anything particularly like, oh, super like mystical, spiritual, like bad mumbo jumbo stuff. It's just kind of like very lighthearted and stuff about like snow monster or snow dragons and stuff like that. And it was very short, so it's just a little picture book. I gave it a 4 stars. And yeah, the next book I read was The Healer's Apprentice by Melanie Dickerson. This is the first in a series, I believe. I'm not sure what the series is called, but this is the first in a series. This was a Christian historical fiction, kind of like medieval time historical fiction, I think. And yeah, romance. Did I say that? Christian historical, yeah, romance is what it was. And this is kind of the first time I've done this more era, I guess, of historical, and I actually really enjoyed it. I was surprised. I do think that kind of like the middle here, I feel like it slowed down. Like, I feel like I was really into it for the 4th, and it kind of slowed down until that last little bit there. I don't know. There was some things in between, but I was skimming a little bit because I just wanted to know, and I wanted to know if I was right. I was right, by the way, but I wanted to know, and I just felt like there was a little bit like extra in there that I just wasn't feeling. I give this one a 3.75. Also, I am interested to check out more by Melanie Dickerson now that I've read this, because I didn't particularly like, you know, I didn't hate her writing style or anything. I quite enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the era more than I thought I would. So I am interested to check more from her out and more of this era out in the future. All right, and then the next book is Leaving Mormonism, Why 4 Scholars Changed Their Mind. This is by 4 scholars, Corey Miller, Lynn K. Wilder, Vince Eccles, and Latani C. Scott. It was edited by Corey Miller and Lynn K. Wilder. So I've been reading this with my husband since February of this year, I think. It was a lot more intellectual than we both thought it was going to be. And reading this out loud, a lot of big words to read, guys. A lot of big words. So it took us some time. It's also quite small, not like super small, but kind of small for this size. When we opened it, we were like, oh, just a lot. So basically all 4 scholars, they each have their own section. One of the scholars I think it was Corey, maybe, he wrote an introduction, and then one wrote the conclusion. So there's 6 chapters in all, I believe. And the chapters are pretty long. Honestly, we enjoyed Corey Miller's decently well. Lynn K. Wilder, we've read her before, and we enjoyed hers well. Latani C. Scott was, you know, okay. Again, there were a few things I think that we were like, But Vince Eccles is where we found a lot of problems with. He was the last story in the book, and he's oh gosh, what was it? Is it Old Earth creationist? He basically does not believe, like, he believes the earth is millions of years old or whatnot. And he was like very open and very much like whatevering, oh, this is what science says, which don't even get me started on that. But yeah, kind of just very, he's is he philosophy maybe? that he got his degree in, I want to say. I don't know. It had a kind of condescending tone about it. He also liked to do this funny thing where he would, me and my husband, Josh, we were kind of confused because sometimes it seemed like he was agreeing with and saying things that he believed, but then other times it seemed like he was just trying to give the perspective so that we could understand and then he could give what he said about it. But we weren't 100% sure when he was saying which one, because that's just like the way he talked. So we felt like he was not being clear, and we weren't sure if he was for things or against certain things that were very like, no, you can't be for these. No, that's dangerous type of thing. So that chapter took us longer to get through, and it was one of the last ones we got through too. So it was, it kind of hurt our rating on it a bit. I ended up giving this a 3.5. I believe my husband is only giving me it a 3.25 because it bothered him a lot more. But if he had been a little bit better, it probably still would have been a 4.25. But because of all the problematic stuff in his part, we kind of bumped it down a little bit. This does have some interesting things in it, but it is, like I said, very intellectual. It is 4 scholars talking, and they are talking like and as scholars. They're not really dumbing it down a lot for you. So this isn't one, especially because the one guy who doesn't have everything right in his mind, it seems, but it's not one I would necessarily recommend to a ton of people, or even, to people to know the differences about Mormonism, or for Mormons to help them. Like, it's not technically one I would initially recommend because of the problematic and because of the higher intellect of some of these and the way they talk. But that's just me personally. If you want to check it out, it's totally up to you, but just fair warning on that content. All right, and then the last book of the month that I finished up on the very last day, and I'm so proud of myself, is God Just a Human Invention? This is, it has a longer title, and 17 Other Questions Raised by the New Atheist. This was written by Sean McDowell and Jonathan Morrow. This was a really good book, guys. I think I gave this a 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed this one. It had so many thought-provoking questions. I definitely thought of somebody else, one of my friends, who I think would love this one because it does answer and it does answer and combat kind of a lot of these just general questions and stuff that I feel like a lot of people, even not even atheists, some just that you hear from people who are just curious or just don't know things. So I definitely think it is a very informational book. I think my husband wants to read this next, but I don't know if you can see because I used pen, not highlighter, but I've got it written up. I don't do that a lot, but I did not have a highlighter when I started this, so I just kind of went with it, and I liked it. I liked this process, so I'm one of those crazy annotators that does something different with everything. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you're curious about atheism or what atheists believe at all, or if you just, you're curious about how to address their questions, you want to help yourself learn about how to address these questions, just honestly just curious about some of the random questions that people ask you sometimes. I feel like a lot of it was in here, and I would definitely 100% recommend this book for anybody who is in the slightest bit curious. And even if you're not that curious, if you don't know much about it, I would still say go pick it up, go read it. Fantastic book. Really, really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad we got to read it for a book club. All right, so those are obviously this isn't it because I have some, audio and ebooks, but these are my books that I read for the month of September, and I need to find some place to put them down. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I would love to hear what you read this month. What was your favorite book? What was your least favorite book? Tell me all about it down in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation about it and just share what we loved, what we hated, how our months was. All right, I will see you guys in my next video. Toodles!